I'm not into podcasts.
I swear you'll never see anything like this ever again! What a hit!
Back of the net.
Hello and welcome to the Not a Pundit podcast. I am Killian Gannetti and I'm delighted to be joined as ever by Conor Glennon and Nathan Byrne. Gentlemen, how are we?
Oh, good man, can't complain. Nathan's crew are trying to steal our man Dan, but apart from that, all good man. How are you?
I'm great. Sunderland Until I Die season 3 came, so I literally have nothing to complain about. Nate, what is the story on your end of the world?
Oh, I'm feeling good, feeling refreshed. I think that's the word. So, yeah, feeling good.
Have you watched Sunderland Until I Die season 3?
Not yet. I know it's a positive season for Sunderland this time round, so it's hard to watch positive things happen on that side of the border.
Have you seen seasons 1 and 2?
I watched one. I've seen fully. Two I watched on and off. But I need to probably get back into it properly because it's only a couple of. How many episodes is it again for
This one is
season
only
3?
3.
Oh
So,
wow, okay.
Yeah, it's because it's not a full season. It's not going from
Day one
first
to
no, it's literally just kind of a recap of what's happened, touching base with a lot of people that they'd covered, and then they run in to the final, and it touches on some of the players that aren't there anymore, like Lyndon Gooch, who came through there from he was there 16 years and he's no longer at the club now, so it was kind of nice for the fans to kind of get to see him again and kind of get a little bit better understanding of the owner. His father used to own Marseille, but for like a summer, Cyril Louis Dreyfus, the Sunderland owner, he's only 26 or maybe 27. I think he's only just turned 26. He actually lived as a youth player at Marseille while Didier Deschamps was the manager. But he was doing all the same duties as the youth players were doing. So he was cleaning boots, he was doing all that kind of stuff around the place. So he's it's really good to kind of see hands-on love.
Yeah.
And even so, there was always question marks of how did he get involved with Sunderland. Because the Fulwell 73, the production company behind it, revealed that part of the reason why Ellis Short, the American owner, initially even let them in was because they had said, this will help you sell the club. And boy, did it. But it turns out Juan Sartori, who was brought in by Stuart Donald, for those who have seen season 2, a Uruguayan guy, he is the son-in-law of Monaco's Russian oligarch owner. So I think he's somewhat involved in the board there while the father-in-law is under embargo.
I see.
Under sanctions. But he also ran for Uruguayan president not long after buying a percentage of Sunderland, and he was kind of meant to be like the real deal in comparison to Donald and Metvin. And then suddenly that whole ownership model went awry, and then he brought in some snot-nosed kid called Cyril Louis Dreyfus. It turns out that they had met while they were on holidays just playing football, and they just kept playing football with each other. Bear in mind, Sartori's twice his age. Sartori would be 40 something now. Then they touched base and was like, "Here, what's the crack? Do you want to get involved?" And they did. And he was initially brought in as a controlling shareholder. Louis Dreyfus, 41%, but it meant that Metvin, Sartori, and Donald, if they wanted, could have had control, but they didn't. It's kind of like a Ratcliffe thing, which we'll touch on later. But yeah, it was just interesting just to see all that kind of from behind the scenes, because there was, for context, season 3, it covers Sunderland getting promoted to the Championship at last. But now that Sunderland are doing well in the Championship, a lot of fans are not trusting the model. So it was kind of good to kind of remind people that this is where we were when these guys came in. we had signed Ross Stewart, who was at that time a winger from Scotland, who was 4 or 5 years before deciding whether or not he was ever going to play football again. We turned him into I think Southampton paid £9 or £10 million for him. Like
from thinking of giving up to 9 million quid that's quite a jump.
Yeah, and it was just down to they not quite Moneyball, but it was that kind of idea. Kind of go, no, we see the physical stats in you that we like, and we know we can coach better.
I will say that the Sun until I die. From what I've seen, it's a very well produced show. Like, I mean, obviously the Wrexham one is a whole different beast, but it seems more and more clubs are doing it. Like Liverpool are doing one, which is ironically the thing that Klopp always said if they did, he'd leave the club, and it kind of coincides with that. But we'll put that down to conspiracy.
I think the difference with the Sunderland one for anybody that hasn't seen it at this stage, and if you haven't seen it, what were you doing during the pandemic?
Yeah.
But
That and Tiger King,
yeah. But like, I think the difference with the Sunderland one in comparison to Tottenham, sorta, but definitely in complete another opposite to City or Juventus or the Arsenal ones, which was it was warts and all.
Yeah, the Amazon ones are a bit more polished.
Yeah, like there was no hiding. Like they shows our managing director at the time slamming a door when he couldn't convince Jack Rodwell to leave the club. It shows Chris Coleman confronting a fan who was calling him shit to his face.
But that's the kind of stuff that's what you want. You know what I mean?
It's real football, and that's why I was disappointed with season 3. It was just a little bit too. It glossed over a lot. It just went through the whole.
But with 3 episodes, there's only so much you can do, you know.
And they're only 45 minutes a piece. So
have United ever done one, Nate?
No, I've a quick question though on them, and just in general. Do you think they have shelf lives? Because I watched season 1, but you wouldn't get me to watch season 2 or 3.
But that's the same with me. I watched 1, and halfway through 2, I dipped.
Is it more like after season 1 and like say the novelty wears off a bit? Is it more than just for the fans, or like could we see one where maybe it goes the Drive to Survive or the Six Nations model where it's the Premier League type behind the scenes stuff? Is it like that's where I'm like, where do you get like all the viewership sort of thing?
Well, the way that they do it in the States for the NFL is what they call hard knocks. So every year they pick a team, and it's a different team every year. So like, you know, it goes from the Panthers one year to the Chargers the next. I think that could be really cool. I've never really thought about that, Nathan. That was actually a really interesting model to do. Because then I'd watch it if it was even fucking Brighton, like.
And it's interesting that you mentioned the NFL there, because with the Super Bowl and whatever, I've been watching their content more and stuff. There's some of their stuff is insane, like quality wise. They released like a 40-minute mic'd up version after the Super Bowl. You could literally listen to everything they were saying in the plays. Like, it was crazy,
unimaginable in the Premier League.
That's what I mean. Genuinely. It's like, are we sort of being sold a bit short when it comes to content?
I think there's levels to it, though. I think you're right. Like, I think the way the NFL do it is unbelievable, and where they're much smarter than the Premier League is like a lot of athletes in the NFL have their own podcasts, namely Travis Kelce, who everyone knows is Taylor Swift's boyfriend now. But like when the NFL put up a post with Travis Kelce that's included the podcast, they do a partner tag, so that like everyone's growing with it. So they're trying to grab the audience of his podcast, and it benefits everyone. Well, like you're telling me, like the podcast say Callum Wilson has, Premier League aren't going to push that. Like, no way.
Now the difference with that though is, don't forget, the NFL was under threat very, very recently from other sports. Like they were on the cusp of losing followers, because like I think what was it, 8 years ago, South Park were making jokes about the NFL were investing in sea monkeys to try and get the crowds back up, put in sea monkeys instead of people.
There's always that cyclical thing with American sports. So like for a couple of years, football will be riding high, and then it'll dip off a little bit. Basketball.
But this is the thing though, is because they've realized that American football and American sports doesn't translate worldwide, but personalities do.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's where the Premier League can be complacent, because it can be. It doesn't have to worry about.
I think the Premier League
worldwide.
That's a very good point. I think the Premier League is a more old school
protectionist.
Yeah, like it's protect the brand. Well, the NFL, like you said, through fear, I suppose, to have opened the gates a little bit, seen it's worked, and then they're
I
off to the
think
races.
even the NFL, like even watching recently and stuff, it's like I think there's a lot that football can learn from it in terms of you know the way that they open up access, like this type of stuff they have, how they're transferring over into new markets now. Like I was watching one of the videos and it was such a simple video. It was like setting up the NFL in Germany, how they went and transformed the stadium into, and like you got me watching it for half an hour because it's
Yeah.
interesting.
They're doing
It's
a
like
game in Madrid as well, in 25, I think, and then Ireland
Dublin,
has
I
been
think,
talked
yeah.
about for a long time with teams like Pittsburgh and having Irish
Well,
core
they
audiences
did
there.
some game last year, didn't they?
They always do college games over
Which
here.
I don't get the whole college thing. The college thing being as big as the NFL is wild to me. Like some
It,
of
I think that's
the
so
colleges
cool
having
though.
I think it's
massive.
class. I think it's
I
like you can live your dream as a professional athlete effectively, and
yeah,
like there's guys that like will never grace the NFL, and for 4 years were basically Premier League players. You know,
like
Kind of like the
they're
Gala.
playing in front of like
yeah,
60,000 in college. Like it's crazy. Like there's arguably there's more passion for the college game in America than there is for the
yeah,
actual.
I'd
Like
agree.
it's wild that like when you think of what our youth systems are like for our sports, it's like on a United under 21s game. Like you should be looking to get a couple of hundred people there.
Yeah,
Now, going back to your question though, Nate, like I do think that in season 2 there is still something for other people. But it's a lot more how should I say sadist porn. Like it's
Well,
if you just want to see a club being run badly and like
a
cringe
dumpster fire
factor.
telly.
yeah, I get that, but like
There was a part where Charlie Medfin was trying to convince them to make the Stadium Light into a nightclub, and it just there's a part they're just sitting in a room, and he just goes, "Just imagine this thumping." And it's like, tss, 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 and then
yeah.
everyone is just there looking at him, and then the subtitles just come up. EDM music continues.
Like I don't know if I'm a bit closed minded when it comes to that, but like when I like look back and go, okay, Sunderland Until I Die, season 1, to me it's you piqued everyone's interest. It came out at the right time, probably with
Mm.
COVID and stuff like that. No, like undoubtedly it probably gathered a lot of fans that grew a connection with the club. I just don't know what's in it for the person to go, let me watch season 2 that they already didn't see in season 1 if they don't have an emotional connection to the club.
Well, see, this the kind of thing I don't think you need to have an emotional connection to the club, but I just think you need to have a basic knowledge of it because, like, season 1 was them falling from the Premier League into the Championship and falling out of the Championship, but it was under one ownership, and at the end of that, it teased the new ownership coming in. So then season 2 was that new ownership. And if you have a little bit of a knowledge about what was going on there, you'd realize that this was an insurance salesman trying to live out his fantasy of playing with the big boys and
I
not being
think
able to do it.
you know, storytelling wise though, I think that's where Welcome to Wrexham that could have another 10 seasons, even if they don't even get promoted, because they focus on the community and the storytelling of the pub landlord and all that.
The difference of like Wrexham is it's the story of the up. It's like
Yeah,
follow their journey upwards and see if they can make it. Whereas
Yeah,
Sunderland's was
exactly.
watch this crash and burn.
yeah.
So like it
You
was
can
never going
that
to have a
only
long life.
unless it keeps getting worse and worse,
But
which
it's one you can revisit. Like if your club
yeah.
is ever going through anything bad, you can kind of revisit and kind of go, oh, so this is what it's like behind the scenes when this stuff is going on. Like
Like
in season 2, it was revealed that they were spending, I think, like a couple of £100 per week on renting plants for the offices of the stadium.
that's
Like,
very important to keep staff morale up.
I mean, that's real RTE flip flop
Look,
vibes. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
but it's like, you get these like interesting anecdotes. Like you also get to see how powerful a player like McGeady was to morale, to the politics, because he was really willing to speak out. Because like it also covers managers coming and going. Because you get
Yeah.
to see Simon
Yeah.
Grayson there, you get to kind of understand who he is, and then you see him sacked.
I
Like
think United are prime for something like this
Oh,
with
God.
with INEOS coming in. They have a chance to make a show of watch us rebuild and rebrand and get back to where they were.
That could go very right or very wrong.
But it'd be great telly either way.
It'd be great telly, yeah, but I'd be extremely scared of what I thought of my club after watching that. You know what I mean? It's like I'm on the outside right now. Do I want to know too much that's going on in the inside? Like that type of thing.
But this is an interesting thing, Nate, because Sunderland had it, which is where does your level of control come in? Because Sunderland were very liberal with that, kind of going, yeah, listen, go and tell the story. Whereas you can see with Juventus or City, they were a lot more hands-on, a lot more kind of like, we're going to control the narrative.
Oh, Glazers would be
what's going on. But this is the thing. Was there not news a couple of weeks ago that INEOS were looking to get more commercial influence away from the Glazers?
Yes, but or
define that. Do you mean financially to get FFP, or
no, to be able to take a little bit more control? As far as I understand, it was to kind of go, well, this is a commercial deal that we think is better for the business because we're gonna sign a player, we're gonna do it in the way that we want. That they can have a little bit more influence on how the club is going to be perceived, because that's the business. Like it affects football, because like you can't have Glazers going and saying, oh well we've signed this and your players just have to deal with that now, or we don't want you to sign him because it's not good for business.
Well, interestingly, it was actually the opposite way around. It was the Glazers that thought it'd be a good idea for INEOS to have more commercial control. Something to do
that's
with
interesting.
Something to do with just like I can't remember the exact wording, but it was like for INEOS to be able to work well, they feel that they need to have a certain control and commercially as well, which is so backwards from the Glazers. It makes me think that it's possibly like just PR, but like I haven't heard anything since on it. So,
because that'd be interesting, because that would completely put the ball into Sir Jim's court and making the decision of like whether this is going to happen or not, and or whoever his head of football operations would be. But there has been a lot of movement on that United front, Nathan. That's we've done United countless times. Give us the whirlwind tour of what's happened in the last week.
Okay, do you have a lot of time for me to list off every?
No,
you've got 60 seconds. Go.
No, I'm getting the weeds on this, and I'm interested because, like, I think it's a lot. It's rare you see a club as big as United with so many roles in senior leadership available.
Well, that exactly. Them. I think the big thing is Mosey's roles never existed.
But
That's the big issue. So like it's not like we're sacking people and getting new people in. But yeah, I think since Omar came in as CEO, like this has been a acceleration on recruitment.
And remind us who Omar is again.
The former head of performance at City Group.
Yes.
So
turncoat.
he came in, and there's just been this acceleration. Clearly, INEOS. Well, I know INEOS, but like clearly they've gone Dan Ashworth, our man. Like obviously,
leave him alone. He is happy where he is. Leave him alone.
Well, Connor, see, this is where you're wrong. He's actually not happy where he is, because he gladly comes to Manchester United. He's made that very clear in the last week.
Oh no, jokes aside, I mean the chance to be that role at Man United, I don't know any football man who turns that down.
But I think a big thing as well is he'll have more influence at Man United than he does in that structure at Newcastle currently. Sir Jim obviously, and I think is it Brailsford?
Oh, Dave Brailsford, yeah.
Brailsford. He holds them in really high regard. So he's clearly the man that they want.
What's Sir Dave's? So structure wise, it goes Omar, CEO.
Omar, Dan Ashworth under him.
Okay.
And this is where it gets very interesting. We're about to have executives of executives. I actually read this article earlier from The Athletic. It was with Dan Ashworth when he was at Brighton. Is this
the one from 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, about his structure.
A fantastic article.
And I think I put in the group chat I mentioned the word bubble. He has his little bubble. That's what he calls it, where he's gonna have head of recruitment, head of academy, head of performance, head of medical, head of psychology. So
that just makes sense to me, though. Like that, and that sounds more like how they operate their cycling team, because they have all those components.
What I believe now these are like strong rumors that are coming out. Is head of recruitment? We're looking to get the Brighton head of recruitment.
That'd be massive.
And
Currently,
Ashworth would be a draw for him.
Yeah.
that was a shock. Apparently, Chelsea want them, but Ashworth's like, no, we're having them.
Jesus, you wouldn't fuck going there at this time. You know what I mean? Like,
do you know how many directors do they have? Like director of football times 5. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so him or Julian Ward is the rumored head of recruitment that
The
United.
former Liverpool director.
Yeah,
Of
that was
football.
under Michael Edwards as well. And then I don't know if you saw we were linked with the director of football of Southampton today. He's
Wilcox, is it?
yeah. I should look up his name now.
I think it's James. I want to say.
It is Jason Wilcox. So we were linked with him today, and like this is the crazy thing. He's director of football at Southampton. The role he'd be having at United is head of academy. So like in
yeah.
football terms, that's a downgrade.
Well, it's like Ralph Ragnick, not even jokes wise, but going from director of football to manager at United, like it's two completely different jobs. And
Exactly.
you know,
But his pedigree actually perfectly suits that role. He was head of academy in City, before he went to Southampton. So that's another exciting.
well, it seems like you're accumulating the Avengers. Like it's
it does. It feels like we're just gathering names, which is crazy. And then also a new role that's meant to be coming into the bubble is an executive that's going to look out over Nice and United at the same time.
now this is Killian. You were the first to throw out that this sounds a bit suspect.
Yeah, well, as the Premier League not just after voting about trying to restrict multi-club ownership buying of players, like transactions between after the dodgy dealings of City buying a player via
Another club they own.
Troyes to loan to Girona to buy with City. Like Troyes' highest transfer fee ever, and he never played for the club. And City are now threatening to take the Premier League to court over this because they're going, oh, well, this is infringing on it.
But, City want to get into a legal battle, do they?
Yeah, a bit. I think there was like 2 or 3 abstentions from the vote, but the rest of the Premier League went.
All I'm hearing
forward.
is Tadibo for 5 million. That's all I'm hearing. You know what I mean? But I think that's a very interesting role that they're clearly trying to.
Like the only way I can see that working,
multi-club structure going before it gets thrown out.
The only way I can see that working, and for all of their criticisms, I think Red Bull are the only one that gets it right, because what they tend to do is they buy between each other, but not ridiculously so. Because like you see players leave the bubble and come into the bubble, and that's fine. But what they did with Ranić and Gerard Houllier before that, was they have people working between the clubs, but it's just to make sure that the ideology is the same, that the tactics are the way they want it. It's like if it's that kind of a role where it's kind of going right. United have learned this. They have this new sports scientist in, and he reckons if you go on a carnivore diet, you're going to be Superman, and then they bring that over to Nice. I'm cool with that. That's synergy. That's an interesting way of doing things. If they want to kind of start saying, right, we want to play in a Gegenpressing style of football, and this is going to be our identity, and bring it across the 2 clubs, that's cool. If it ends up facilitating dodgy dealings, well then.
But I think that's the thing. It doesn't have to facilitate dodgy dealings, and I think multi-club ownership can work.
Will it?
If it's properly regulated. Like
I think multi-ownership. I think multi-ownership is fine, like you're saying, Nate.
Yeah.
Like we're being pessimistic here, and I think it's doable. But you're right, Killian. At the same point, like there's ample room for dodginess. But
it's not pessimism when it's happening now.
Yeah.
But like, let's say United use Nice as a way to develop players. Like, I see no issue with that.
I don't either, personally.
I see no issue with United players going on loan to Nice and developing. I
don't mind that. That's absolutely fine. But if they're gonna try and use it to do what's it you doing, circumventing work permits, circumventing financial, because if you can bounce things between different leagues.
See, I think there's 3 layers of like possibilities here. I think, like Nathan's saying, if it's more of a breeding ground for youth players.
If
great.
it's like a Football Manager setup,
yeah, cool.
that's fine.
Then there's what's going on with the City Group, and then there's the possibility of, like, say, up at the Toon, if we got Benzema on loan through Saudi Arabia, like, that's just,
or Watford and Udinese, or Nottingham Forest and Olympiacos. Oh, I wanted to get him over to Forest. Oh, the transfer deadline is gone. I'll just sack him from Olympiacos and hire him again at Nottingham Forest.
I do think.
Well,
I think you'd know better, Nate, but like I do think from what Sir Jim does, I think he's more of a serious operator. That I don't think he's into the con and the system. I think he's genuinely trying to create a better system.
Well, there's rumours now that Sir Jim's looking at a South American club. So
Have they said who?
No,
Or
apparently Brazil and Argentina top division. They're looking at 2 clubs, one in each. They're not going to buy 2 clubs, but either one.
It'd be one or the other, yeah.
Yeah, but that's interesting. That is this just a more complex sort of academy system where they get you products in, they give them a few years to develop at these clubs, and they go like, let's go like move them on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I personally have no issue with that. Any club doing that. I think Chelsea are trying to do it. Like, I think Chelsea are trying to. Did they buy Strasbourg in France as well?
Did they?
I think they bought Strasbourg.
Well,
I think so. Or
So
they were definitely in talks too, anyway.
yeah, I think that went through. So, like, a lot of clubs are doing this now. Let's talk about, like, Newcastle have their 14 clubs in Saudi Arabia that they have. And yeah, but like,
and talks of others, that weren't they looking at somebody in Italy?
I
Roman?
I think multi-club ownership. I think City have soured the waters of what it is, but I think if you take the City Group out of it, it's doable, and as long as it's somewhat regulated.
My only worry would be the guy leading it is the guy that was leading the City Group. So,
well, yeah,
you know what I mean?
I completely forgot about that.
That actually just came to my head there. I was like, okay, the guy that could be leading this was actually leading City's one. So, what is our intentions?
And see, my issue with City is it's only how they're doing it as of the last year. They're after some things after changing on how they're doing it, because like they bought a load of teams. And they were doing the cool thing. Like, they had Hirona for years, and they're sending Patrick Roberts out on loan there. And they have Yokohama Mariners. They have Melbourne City. They have New York City FC. And they were doing the cool thing. Who's their Brazilian team? And
I don't know.
I can't remember. But then you have the likes of Red Bull, who have one in Ghana, one in Brazil, one in New
Germany.
York. They have Germany. They have Austria. They have a lower division Austrian one as well.
That
like,
sounds a bit suspect, you know.
No. I think it's more of a I think it's more of a second team situation.
Yeah. Like,
it's called Liefering or something.
Yeah.
It's just like the B team, which they do that in their system, which is fine. But it's like when you see what the Udinese owners did with Watford, where you're just kind of like trading between yourselves, and what City are now doing, and with the legal goings on around City, every deal now has to be brought into question, and they're making it more and more questionable with every deal. Like, it's something that kind of needs to be regulated, and I don't think that, or I'd hope that United don't fall into that trap, but it's something that they need to be very, very, very careful with, and you would hope the Premier League will act before they can get caught out in that.
My fears is with the Premier League, the regulation. Anytime the Premier League try to regulate something, or like say the owner's test is just redundant, like it never works. Still have dodgy owners coming in. I've had since the thing was in play. It seems like every regulatory thing they do is half baked. Like, I think if you're gonna allow this kind of thing to go on, it's either a free for all or a really stringent plan. And because I think the way that it there's so much ambiguity in the regulations in the Premier League, for me anyway.
The thing is, this is a FIFA regulation thing because it spans over so many leagues.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the Premier League can't go investigating what's happening with the League of dealings and stuff like that.
I just found the rest of the City teams that they own. They have Bahia,
Where's that?
Brazil. They have an influence on a team, I think, in Bolivia. They have they have Girona. They have Lommel in Belgium. They have some dealings with a Uruguayan team. They have
I'll
Melbourne.
be straight up, lads. I didn't even know they played football in Bolivia.
I think half of these are just smokescreen clubs.
They
Yeah,
have Mumbai. They have
but
New York City.
is
They
this
have
just to get into the
Palermo.
is this just to get into the country though? In terms of kind of like spread the city
Yeah,
message
the
through
youth,
these
the youth
proxies.
prospects.
That's what they say. But when you look at, don't forget the Lampard deal. Like they
Yeah,
got
that's
around
dodgy.
transfer windows and all by okay, we want Lampard to be at New York because that's going to be good for our brand there. Sure, we'll just have him play for City for the next 6 months.
Yeah,
Like that kind
That's
of
dodgy.
leaves
Yeah,
question marks. It's I think it's when it's kind of coming down is where the issues are rather than the going up. Like if they were signing players from Mumbai, cool. That sounds interesting.
yeah.
That's a good kind of pathway. It's when you see it going the other way. Like I think was that the Mumbai team that Nicholas Anelka was briefly at
For
possibly.
a
no.
hot minute, his 72nd club of his career. That dude's
Yeah.
That dude's had more jerseys than I don't know what.
But yeah, like it's just fair. It gets a little bit murky. Like I don't even mind like having like especially with Brexit and all that. I don't mind them having European clubs because that's trying to get work permits and stuff. But that's still a 5-year development thing, which United have had in the past with the likes of Antwerp. Um,
So
yeah,
lads,
it's
say
mm,
Tadibo and Taram that are at Nice right now,
mm,
two highly rated players. Should United be going for them?
yeah.
Like,
But I think the question marks only come in if there's
if it's
odd.
malicious,
No, like if they were going for 15 million apiece, you're going that's a bit dodge.
but
Or
that's what I think
if
might
they end
happen.
up, but if they end up, or it's say the two of them went for like 30 million and 45 million, like that's a total of 75 or 80 million. That sounds about market rate, maybe a little bit less. That's okay. But then suddenly Dan Gore goes over to fucking to Nice for 35 million. Then you're kind of going, ooh,
Yeah, I
he's
There's
not a
think
no way
35.
there's no way to regulate that though, because it's as a club owner, you set the fee.
Plus, there's the other thing as well is when the two of them are in Europe.
Yeah,
well, this is where the way it's set up now is Sir Jim isn't a majority owner of Manchester United.
on purpose though, because
So
I'm
I'm
sure
not
you want
sure
the whole kit and caboodle, but
the two teams in Europe rule comes into play now because
because he's not majority
he's
owner.
not majority owner.
So realistically, no matter even
So
if the
it is a
Glazers
bit dodgy even looking at it like
if
that.
the Glazers dipped out, and he'd probably only ever want 49% because he can keep two clubs.
Well, wasn't that always the thing that the goal is to get the Glazers out? It's not necessarily for him to take a higher percentage.
Yeah,
But like that's the thing is like with like we are sort of skirting the line right now that he only owns 25% or whatever, but he has full control. So
yeah, well, yeah.
he's de facto owner. You know what I mean?
But what's funny is that's in the Glazers' interest. Like, as in,
Oh,
give
100%.
give him a quarter, let him do all the hard yards, and we'll reap the benefits of it down the line when they eventually do finally leave. But like, what within the framework? What's Brailsford's role within that structure?
He's like not in the structure. He's just overseeing it with Sir. He's a board member, I believe.
Okay,
So he's a director.
yeah,
Is
But
he the guy that's meant to be the head of football operations for the INEOS group, where he's kind of
yeah,
keeping tabs on everything, making sure?
no, that's the former Juventus CEO. Is what's
Okay.
Cameron? There's too many names going on right now.
Yeah.
But actually, one thing that I saw today that you'll like, Killian, is that this is very Sir Jim. Is Man United to calling Kenyan marathon runners and All Black rugby stars as Sir Jim and Ineos look for marginal gains to transform the team's fortunes.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that
That's
as
cool.
well. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, I like
And
that.
just a little bit, like a little bit more context here.
INEOS, didn't they kind of transform cycling with the Sky team?
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah,
Like I mean, now there was a lot of therapeutic usage exemptions, like we discussed in the doping episode a while back. But
but
no,
like
like
this is very Sir Jim.
Dave Brailsford is what he did to cycling. If he can even do a quarter of that to football,
And like
United are in
this
for a
has
great
already
run.
been happening at Nice as well. So like this is why it will be coming into United. They said the Kenyan running coaches have been introduced to give tips to players on pace explosions and being quicker off the mark. And similarly, the All Blacks were brought in to assist with treatment and prevention to stop muscle problems. So like
It
it's
makes so, but again, it makes
yeah, it
so
makes
much
sense.
sense. It's painfully obvious. It's like why aren't like all these like siloed roles that you're like, why didn't they have them before? It's like Jesus when you say like
Yeah.
it's so obvious, you know.
And I think that's the great thing with INEOS is it's like fair enough City have their football structure and stuff, but INEOS have a sport wide structure. Like, do you know what I mean? They're involved in so many sports that if they can even take 5% from every sport,
Yeah,
imagine what sort of gain that has for the club.
but they come in with almost like a consultant like approach on streamlining process, you know.
Have you seen the F1 training where they have the lads with the ropes and they're
Yeah.
pulling the heads?
Yeah,
Imagine how strong Harry Maguire's head is going to
yeah.
be. He will head through brick walls as it is.
On him actually, I saw a clip the other day. I don't know if it was on United socials or where, but it was kind of Maguire signing autographs outside the stadium and fans chanting his name, and he kind of just starts smiling, and you can just like fair play to the dude. Like I've rinsed him, we've all rinsed him, the whole world's rinsed him, and to battle through that and kind of claw back his not even
Yeah.
ability, but his resilience he's shown is just phenomenal. Like.
That put a smile on my face. And I think when I saw that, I was instantly like, it is more likely Ten Hag's decision, but whoever's decision that was in the club to take the captaincy away,
Yeah,
as hard as that is to strip it off someone, like it's done the world a good. Like you know what I mean? Like he's not playing with the expectation of being the captain of Manchester
I
United
put it
now.
this way: if they hadn't have done that, I don't think he'd still be at the club.
Oh no. But yeah, like I think it just shows that like there's a clear balance between people that can handle being captain and can't, and it's
Yeah,
totally fine to not be able to handle it. You know what
but
I
it's
mean?
also there's being captain in the Premier League and there's being the captain of Man United. Like that is
Yeah.
arguably that it's like top five like hardest clubs to be a captain at in the world. They're definitely in there.
And to be fair, it was through the hardest period of the club's history, like
Yeah, he really
recent
got
history at
shafted there.
least.
Just to kind of bring it back to a point from earlier, so it seems that Dan Ashworth is going to be the director of football.
Yeah.
Is that actually going to happen? Because I've been seeing that Newcastle are quite confident in the strength of their contract, and there could be a gardening leave of up to a year.
Well,
Um,
Fabrizio Romano has said that Ashworth has said yes, that
Yeah.
he has
And
to work it out with the club on the exit strategy.
but could that be 6 months, 12 months, 2 months, a week?
I mean,
my
Or do United just have to
understanding
pay out the nose just to
that's
get
what
it
I
done
think
now?
it'll be.
my
Yeah.
understanding is I was told this, he told Newcastle on Monday that he wanted to leave. Flat out told them. Um the clubs actually haven't communicated yet, but
Oh,
that's going
okay.
to be soon. But the part where United is like, oh, we're not going to pay any fee, we're not going to play. That's just all mind games. Clubs are playing mind games with each other. They
I mean,
will
it's
have
a
to
we
pay.
don't negotiate with terrorists kind of line. Like you're gonna do it. Like
Yeah, like
Very
they're
apt
gonna.
for the Newcastle.
I knew you. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, why did I say that?
But
But the thing about Newcastle is they don't need the money, so they could
Yeah,
say we want 30 mil and we'll give you them tomorrow, and
yeah.
or they
but
could
the
go, oh
thing
well, we'll pay the
is,
30 mil, well give us the 50 mil now
the thing is,
instead.
do you want a fella there running your club that doesn't want to be there? That's another thing. You know what I mean? I think what will happen is
Very
United
good
will
fella though.
pay. I think United will pay probably. I heard 6, but I think it'll be more like 10 million probably for him. And I think the gardening leave will be the summer. That's when all the new guys will come in the summer. just
Yeah,
flock
like
out
it's
runners.
it's just so frustrating from a Newcastle perspective because like obviously look he's a phenomenal football brain and we if we could have just had him for like another year or two, I think he really could have helped put us onto that next level because like we're at a weird position up in Newcastle that got Champions League this year probably was too soon for us. You know, we're a small like I mean, look, Newcastle in terms of as a club are a big club in terms of history or whatever, but we're now in that weird kind of are we a 10th place club or are we a fourth club? What are we?
Yeah,
And we
what's the
really need
expectation?
someone like him to just help us figure that shit out. You
A
know?
steady figure to kind of go, well, this is how we're going to progress over the next couple of
Yeah,
years.
and
We're
like
going to have a year out so that in 2 years' time we're back and we're
yeah,
back in for 2 years in a row. It's yeah, it's a very big important role for a club in your position. Like look at what he did with Brighton, and those that came after him with Brighton. There was a
Yeah,
clear vision of kind of going right. We're going to get up. We're going to establish ourselves, and oh wow, we performed a little bit better, but we're still going to establish ourselves. We don't stray from the plan, and they've maintained that, and they will continue to maintain that to great success.
mm.
And the market isn't exactly flush with people like that
That's
they're
what I
kind of
mean.
willing to
He's a
put.
one of one. Like you know.
I'm interested to hear from you guys. What do you think of how United's acting right now? Like the things that you know and have heard. What's your opinion of the situation? Because I'm obviously biased in what I think, and I think like it's totally different. But like I'm interested to hear what you guys think.
This is for me. It's the first time since David Gill left that they've made a positive leadership decision, and I think they're at least optically whether they get all the people they want, it shows a level of consideration for the future that I don't think United have shown in a very long time, and at least PR wise, I think it gives them a strength and solidifies Sir Jim as a serious operator within the landscape of English football.
Yeah, I think it's proper football manager stuff. Um, like it's going ratings by 5 star, make offers, see
See,
what
I
you can
don't
get.
think it's that though, because there's plenty of 5 star
Yeah,
dudes out there.
that's
But
what
like,
I'm thinking.
you know,
There's not though, because most of them are signed up, and well,
yeah,
I think they've been, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I mean it's kind of going, they've gone and looked for the best, and they said,
Yeah,
right, we like you, I want you,
but
and
I
they're
think
getting them.
the interesting fact is they were all signed up. You know what I mean? Like they could have gone and got like tried to convince Michael Edwards or got whatever your man is called, but they've gone. We want Dan Ashworth. We don't care. He's at Newcastle. We're willing to
yeah.
pay that. Like
But
he's our
but I
man.
think that goes back to what it used to be like with Man United, where no, like if Man United wants something, it happened, and that hasn't been like that for a while. But this is the first time in a while it seems like that's happening, and like on the 5 star kind of thing, like the way I kind of view this is like say all the guys that they're looking at. Say if you want to put it in a military kind of example, there's say well, for number's sake, we'll say 300,000 soldiers in America. Then there's the SEAL team, which is the 1%, and then there's SEAL Team 6, which is the 1% of the 1%. And like Dan Ashworth is that SEAL Team 6 guy in a pool of other high performing SEALs, you know?
And
I, s-
like, go ahead.
I think the difference between this and maybe what could be implied when I say the 5 star thing is that they've gone out and got the the 5 star rated guys, but they've done it in a way that says, I want you, rather than just looking at a name or a 5 star. It was like Monchi a few years ago when he went to Roma. Did amazing stuff at Sevilla. Constant European Cup winners. 5 star guy went to the wrong club. Wrong mix, didn't work out. Roma were probably worse off after he left, and not for lack of nous and all that. But like this seems to be a lot more, or like a lot more organic, in the sense of kind of going, right, Ashworth, we want you, and we wanted a 5 star recruitment guy. Oh well, then you two are at Brighton, you know each other, we'll put you two together, and we're gonna, it's a lot better planned out, and it's like, in fairness, in football, really, really good planning like that isn't too common anymore.
That's what
like,
I mean. Like,
especially when you see the blue card thing that's meant to be coming out, like, that is planning that is just not good in football. Adi, have you any opinion on blue cards yet?
Nate, I think. Do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I might shock you guys a bit because
Oh no! Oh wow!
I'm a big rugby fan. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
obviously the yellow card system and that whatever, 10 minutes in, man. I think it could spice it up, like make games more spicy. Like,
But
and
but why have a yellow card then? Is my thing. You know what I mean? It's
Mm.
like either have a blue card and a red card. Okay, I hate it, but
Put
makes
their
more
name in a
sense.
book and
but
give them a card
the
Yeah.
yellow
instead of
card
a
is a
yellow card.
caution, isn't it? Yellow card is a caution.
Yeah, so
So
give them an actual
it's
caution.
like a warning. A blue card would be the next step up. It's like you're making you're committing fouls, but it's not a red card foul. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
But like the fact that you could get like I'm just thinking, right? Joey Barton, okay, he'll get a yellow card 20 minutes in. He'll probably get a blue card like 50 minutes in. He'll come back at 60 minutes in, and then probably get a second yellow. It just becomes farcical, you know.
Well, I think a
I
yellow and a blue card is meant to be a red.
Is that what they're thinking?
I think so.
I
Okay.
think if you define what a blue card is, like like, and when I say define, I mean like black and white on paper. Like, you know, say to be honest, I think a blatant dive is a blue card.
That I could get on board with because that would get diving out of the game.
I think that's like if you can see a blatant dive, and I would even VAR check it. I think that should be a yellow card because I think that's deceit and whatever. I think violent conduct that isn't like, do you know when like something happens, like they clash heads, but it's not a red type thing.
Yeah,
You
when they
know,
square up or whatever.
they
Yeah.
square up, put hands on each other. But I think that could be used as a sin bin. I
See,
think there's ways
in these kind of you have a habit of doing this to me, Nate. That there's something I hate, and you get me around to liking it.
like, I do think there's a way that this can work, like, because it does work in other sports, and I think it's like it's gone back to the thing with football. It's a very pure sport. It's a very sport that people like to. I don't know if
Gatekeep.
yeah, I don't know if that's the right word or not, but it's a sport that, like, there's never really much change, and it's like this could be the thing that like, you know, gets a nil all like Burnley and Crystal Palace to like a good watch. You know what I mean?
My thing is with it though is like maybe it's just managers being old codgers, but like it's very rare that you get every manager in the league to agree on something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And when you add up all the years that these lads have been managing, it has to speak for something. Like, I just think it's funny. It's almost contradiction what I was saying earlier, where, you know, the NFL and American sports are so much further advanced, and then I'm saying let's not change things in this capacity. But I don't see the need for it. I think either, like I said, I think we're fine as is. Football's worked pretty damn well for I don't know how long at this point. But the other thing that worries me is IFAB, the people who are coming up with this idea, are the ones that came up with the latest handball rule, which is the worst and hardest to understand rule. Like, I don't even know what a handball is anymore. I don't know about you guys, but so like I just don't trust those guys. So if it's coming from them, no, you know,
the thing that like I feel like people have a real problem with change, and I think that's just a general thing with people is they're scared,
especially Irish people.
But like, let's try it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's try it. And I think one thing that VAR is even in right now, it's like there's too many decisions that they can't give because it's not conclusive enough to overturn it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why can't that fit into a blue card area? Like, there's so many things in a game where you go, oh, like, where's the card for that? Like, oh, like they've overstepped the bound too much here.
But
like,
it's also, but you see, where I think this is coming from is they're trying to, like, think about it in rugby. When a guy gets sin bin, how many times does the camera pan over to him? It fills time. It kind of, they make more of a show and dance about the sin bin than the actual game, and that takes away from the game for me. Like, I like the I like, you know, in America or in ice hockey, it works because they usually box the face off each other. So like I think it works in certain sports, and it's not that I'm trying to, never change football. I just don't know if it works.
Do you know how it works in rugby now? So, and this could be interesting in terms of VAR as well. It's if you get a yellow card in rugby, which would be a blue card in football,
Yeah.
you go to the sin bin, but your challenge or whatever goes to the bunker. The bunker is basically VAR,
Okay.
where they have the chance to either upgrade it to a red card or keep it as a yellow. So they
And
review
but they
it.
won't downgrade it, no.
So if the referee decides that's a sin bin, yeah,
Yeah.
on the pitch, the VAR then happens off the pitch without anybody seeing it. So it's like there's no big stop and play to like review stuff.
It just
It's like
you're going to the bin regardless, and it can only be worse for you based on this VAR.
It's called the bunker.
But this is where rugby is helped by being able to stop the clock.
Yeah.
Like it never feels like too bad. But like on the whole kind of new rule thing, though, I think in the last since the Premier League came in, maybe a little bit after that, I think people have become way, way, way too resistant to change. Like cards were only brought in the 70s,
which is wild.
Up until what was it, Euro 92 or something like that, or 88. You were able to do the back pass, and that's how Denmark won it, because they just basically held on to the ball for the whole game, and like they didn't even qualify for that Euros. Fun fact.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wasn't sure if I was right about that, but
yeah, they didn't qualify, and it was the collapse of the Soviet Union that ended up, or the maybe Czechoslovakia, one of that era, and they got in on a pass, and they were able to do that, and that rule changed, and it was for the better, and I'm sure there would have been opponents to that. Like I think what's actually going against the blue card right now is one, the name. It sounds a bit dumb. I would just just rebrand the yellow card.
Call it sin bin.
That was just about to say, just keep it simple, like.
Yeah, but like instead, like I think it's good just to still have the two class. You're either like
I disagree. I think you need to have a caution.
No, I think a caution is having a word. Put your name in a little book. I don't think it needs to be.
Oh, you're going in the GA route.
A little bit, just kind of going like because one of the things I never liked about a caution is you can there could be a tackle where it should be a yellow card, because on the face of it, but it's very early in the game. A lad was a little bit head up. He doesn't need to be on the verge of like one more accidental tackle or a flying elbow or something like that, and he's gone off the pitch. It was just a little bit like what referees used to do. Was that kind of like, listen,
have a chat? Yeah.
I think that's all it needs to be, and then just like make the yellow card a sin bin, which I think the idea is great. And then
the cynic in me would abuse that. So like say if I know I'm just getting a blue card for a sin bin, you can go in, do a bad tackle that's not like red bad. You're not doing studs up to the knee, but you're doing getting someone off the pitch, and you're only 10 minutes in the bin. You'll be back, and then
you mentioned a long time, though.
But you mentioned Joey Barton earlier.
Yeah,
what that famous City Premier League winning game against QPR.
Oh, where he needs someone, and
where he said, "Well, if I'm going to go off, I'm going to take someone with me."
Yeah,
it's happening anyway. Yeah. So, like, I think it's a kind of a moot point. I don't think we're going to see it in the Premier League anytime soon. And one lad that we're not going to see in the Premier League probably anytime soon is poor Roy Hodgson, who seems to be getting the sack from Crystal Palace, Connor.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Sky Sports confirmed or wide media confirmed, but our pal Fabrizio is calling it that that Hodgson has lost his job and will be replaced by Oliver Glasner with immediate effect. Glasner's former Eintracht boss and contract until 2026, all done for ahead of the Chelsea game. So, I really like Roy Hodgson. I mean, to be honest with you, when he came back, I think he stayed too long. I think he at 76 to be managing at the top level that's unheard of. Like, Do
you want the fun fact that I promised you earlier?
Oh yeah, what is it?
Roy Hodgson started managing with Halmstad in Sweden The same year that Diego Maradona started playing as a professional.
Whoa.
That is wild.
Jesus, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, just to put in context the length of his career.
What? So he's easy. So he's 76. So he's probably been coaching since he was what, like 28?
He was young. Yeah, he was pretty young.
Jesus, that's like 50 years of coaching. Like I mean, I do think what I don't like.
1976.
That's mental. What I don't
My
like
dad
about
was
people
born in
is
72.
he was born in 72.
Yeah.
I'm quite angered by this. By Roy Hodgson getting sacked. He shouldn't have came back in the first place. I think they've done him severely dirty.
He should have went in the summer. He shouldn't have stayed on.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think he should have come back for that period and then gone. Look, I did what I did. I'm dipping out. Like,
yeah, but the ownership didn't make that decision. Like, I think they done him severely dirty. They begged for him to come back to help them out. Came back, helped them out, and then they have the audacity to sack him. Like, just go to him and just go like, "Come on, we'll part ways." Don't go the sacking route. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's not great. It's not a great look.
I think that's severely dirty. Like, you don't sack the man that's come back and done you.
The only thing there, and I think possibly the only reason for that, I agree with you. It's bad form, but like if they mutually part ways, they don't have to pay his contract out.
Yeah,
but if they sack him, he gets his money.
They should have a bit of decency though to go like, we're just gonna call it a mutual agreement to part
and
ways.
We'll pay you anyway.
Here's your money.
Yeah.
Like, he at the end of the day, he came back from his retirement to help them out. It wasn't the other way around.
And on the age point as well, to put in perspective where he's at, like, you know, this afternoon during training, he ended up having to he fell ill and is in hospital. Apparently, according again to Fabrizio, he's stable and T's and P's with Roy Hodgson. But like, you know, what goes with a role like that is not for a, like, sure, if you look at Klopp and he's exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell at 76 can you expect? Like, I mean, I'm almost glad they've got rid of him because Christ, you know, he can't keep going at that. Like, he'd just drop at some point.
Let's do a very quick quiz. Can you name all of the clubs that Roy Hodgson has managed?
Not a chance. Not a chance. We got Liverpool. We've got Palace. We've got. Was he at Fulham?
He was, yeah. He got to the European Cup final.
Yeah, okay. England. So he's got that Swedish team you mentioned.
Amstad.
Inter Milan, he was like, was he manager or was he?
No, he was a manager and then he was a caretaker manager after.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Give me a country.
You have a couple more in England. You have...
a couple more in England?
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm getting it out. That's a bit. I got more.
Here, like.
Yeah, I got more there than I thought I would. Who? Give us a hint.
Two of them are beginning with W.
Watford.
Wolves.
Yes. Watford.
Okay. Wigan.
No.
Watford, Wigan.
And the other two are beginning with B.
B. What kind of level are we talking here?
Currently they'll be between Championship League 1.
Oh, I don't stand a chance.
No. I'll give you two of them. Bristol City.
Oh, okay.
And Blackburn.
Oh, Blackburn! I should have known that. Now that one's annoyed me.
The other English club was West Brom. Before England.
Yeah.
But we also have, going in chronological order, Oddvold, Orobo, and Malmo. All in
great
Sweden.
Pronunciation. I'll give you that.
You love Sweden.
Then there was Jamax in Switzerland, you know, the X team. Then there was the Swiss national team. Then Inter, Blackburn, Inter again, Grasshoppers.
Oh yeah, I knew that one. Yeah.
Copenhagen.
Copenhagen.
Udinese. The UAE national team.
That I didn't know.
Yeah.
When
was that?
2002, 2003.
How big was his tax bill that year? He needed to go out there.
Then he went to Viking. It's Norwegian. And then he was the Finnish national team manager. Then Fulham, Liverpool, West Brom, England, Palace, Watford, Palace.
His poor wife has been dragged to every corner of the world.
Man, like fucking hell.
Like we thought Anelka was bad. Christ.
I would defend him more if he didn't try to play Roberto Carlos as a left winger. That's all I'm going to say. Like, don't forget, he was managing Roberto Carlos at Inter Milan.
There needs to be a full-on documentary on Roy Hodgson with that kind of, like, jokes aside, like that. With
that kind of a record, you need to have a documentary. But somebody else who needs to have a documentary because of their ridiculous record is Harry Kane ruining Kingsley Coman's ridiculous record. The two of them have a ridiculous record, which is Kingsley Coman has never had a season where he hasn't won a title.
This is a disgrace, by the way. Like, in all honesty, like, that should be a terminate contract type thing. Like, you're going to do Kingsley that dirty. Like, this fella was going to go his whole career winning a trophy every season. And it's just, it's been, yeah.
You know what the most ironic thing, and I saw this on Twitter just before we hopped on, so he's probably going to get, top goal scorer in the Bundesliga. And the trophy for that is a cannon. And what's a cannon? Arsenal's crest. Like, it's the most shithousery thing in the world. I adore it.
I'm just saying, lads, thank God Manchester United did not get him, because like this whole rebuild thing would be in shambles. We'd never win again.
Yeah.
Just put this into the ether so it exists. So if it happens, you can all blame me.
Yeah.
Bayern don't win a trophy for the first time since 1452, which gets their manager the sack. Kane stays on. Jose Mourinho gets hired, gets them to a European Cup final, and loses, with Harry Kane then moving back to the Premier League.
I mean, stranger things have happened. I do think, regardless of whether he wins 2 Bundesligas, like, they're not that far behind. It's like, it's definitely within reach. But I think regardless, he'll come back to the Premier League at some point. He wants that record. He wants Shearer's record bad.
Yeah. But
we agree, though.
2 or 3 years.
Really. We agree, though. Jose needs to be back in a top level job.
Jose, like I said to you, like when we were talking recently, like I'd take him up at Newcastle. Like, he needs a job, and like, and not even for the comedy value of him. Like, he's a winner. Like,
I think a Newcastle is a really, really good level for him, because I like what he did with Roma. I think he needs a cult of personality around him.
He needs a culture that he needs
to be bigger than the club.
Yeah.
I think he needs to be bigger than the club. I don't think he could ever go back to Real Madrid now or United, because
it's too big.
It's going to exist without him. Whereas I think he likes to have this kind of like he did with Roma, where for that brief period, if you went to Italy and went to Rome, as far as they're concerned, the city could burn, but as long as Jose was okay, that's all that mattered.
Yeah.
I think it was like Rafa at Newcastle. It was that kind of like, he was bigger than the club, and that got the best out of him, and it got the best out of the club. And I think that's, if he went to like that, that's why I think if he was to get the Portuguese national job, that'd be a really good fit. Although apparently he, back in 2007, he turned
down England.
Turned down England, which I don't think would be the right move for. I don't think the England one would have been the right move for him, because I think, again, it's one of them jobs that
poison chalice.
It swallows you up, because just the Brits be at it, like. But like, that's why I was always
Portugal too.
Yeah, but the only thing is, he says a lot of things. You know what I mean? So, like, what's true in this? But I think he'd be bored stiff as Portuguese manager, even though I'm sure he'll do it at some point in his career. But I think he's got one big club left in him before he does that.
Barca.
Oh,
he'd be bigger than the club because of how much of a shambles that club is. Like that'd be interesting.
I think people forget that he was there before, because I've seen it a lot online. Where
I forgot that. Yeah, him in his tracksuit with his long black or his thick black hair. Yeah,
wasn't he basically Bobby Robson's translator?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, that's
which, going back to the Newcastle link. Just saying, it would be kind of a match made in heaven, if not international football, which I think is ultimately going to be his future. But just before we end up on international football, Nations League draw, where are we going to finish? Bottom or second bottom?
Oh, I'll put it this way: I'll happily finish bottom if we can win against England at home.
Nate?
Bottom, but if Steve Bruce is there, second.
Because apparently the whole thing is that Lee Carsley, it's dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
Well, Shay Given saying it's not. He's saying he can't see it, but
loads of people are saying that it's not Carsley. Like 3 people have come out in the last day and said that.
I think
the only thing about them is a lot of them are former footballers, and like look at Given, his wife doesn't even know what a vaccine is, let alone him being able to call whether it's a guy that he never really played with is going to take a managerial job. It'd be like me trying to say the fucking cleaning lady from my job 4 years ago, I know exactly what move she's going to make. Not really.
Brian Kerr said today that he's pretty much like her does. He's
I think the sticking point is the moving to Ireland thing. I think Carsley has absolutely no interest in that.
I think it'd be different for him. Because he's so close. I think as long as he'd be willing to accept Ireland as a base, I think that's what they want. Is they just kind of want it ran out of there. So what that really means is, who is your assistant going to be? Because if he can stay in Birmingham where he likes, or that general area, and then has an assistant based in Dublin, well, that's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
I think that's their big thing, is they don't want just to have
an in and out management crew.
Yeah, where it's just there's nobody here. And if you look at it with Stephen Kenny, he was the reverse. He was the one that was in Ireland, while a lot of his assistants now were coming in and out. So,
what do you think, Killian? Where do you think we finished? Bottom, second bottom?
I think we're going to finish second bottom on goal difference on 1 point.
Okay.
I think we can steal a point against the Finnish, considering they have a load of our Irish players, and hopefully they'll have the bad luck that we have.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, and fingers crossed we'll be back again next week, where if you aren't already subscribed, maybe you should, because apparently we've been ranking in the sports news section over the last couple of weeks. So
making moves, boys.
You know, we're even in the American sports news charts in the top 150, might I add.
Ooh, Travis Kelce, watch out. We're coming for you, son.
We're pretty good at this podcast thing, you know what I mean?
I wouldn't go that far, but I will go as far as to say as it's been a very enjoyable evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much for sticking with us to our listeners, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Bye-bye.
I'm not into podcasts.
I swear you'll never see anything like this ever again! What a hit!
Back of the net.